Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras.
And I'm Natasha Kirchuk. Coming up in today's newscast, Israel and the United States prepare for retaliation from Iran after the killing of the al-Quds military head Qasem Soleimani.
Record amounts of rainfall lead to tragedy in Tel Aviv.
And we'll reveal which incredible Israeli inventions are being touted as the biggest game changers of the last year.
The world is on high alert following the United States' killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani over the weekend.
Last night, at my direction, the United States military executed a flawless strike that terminated the terrorist ringleader responsible for gravely wounding and murdering thousands and thousands of people and hundreds at least of Americans. Qasem Soleimani has been killed, and his bloody rampage is now forever gone.
Well, World War III is now trending on social media as Iranian officials are threatening retribution. Ayatollah Khamenei is promising harsh revenge to crowds who preach death to America and to Israel in Tehran. And pro-Iran groups, including Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza, have also vowed action. Hundreds of Gazans additionally trampled on American and Israeli flags in a mourning tent set up for Soleimani. Israel and the U.S. are preparing for retribution, though. Jerusalem has warned Gaza through Egypt not to respond with any aggression. And the Security Cabinet is set to meet Sunday to discuss preparations in the north after Prime Minister Netanyahu expressed support for Washington's strikes.
Just as Israel has the right of self-defense, the United States has exactly the same right. Qasem Soleimani is responsible for the death of American citizens and many other innocent people. He was planning more such attacks.
Meanwhile, American forces have mobilized both from Kuwait and from the mainland, expecting retaliation from Iran and its proxies within weeks at the maximum. Qasem Soleimani has served as Iran's head of military and clandestine operations as the head of the IRGC Quds force for years, and he's thought of by many as the second in command to Ayatollah Khamenei himself. He was killed Friday in a United States drone strike just outside of Baghdad airport.
Meanwhile, even though Israel and the United States are the first on the Iranian regime's list, other American allies in the region, especially in the Gulf, are also bracing for conflict. Western foreign embassies in Baghdad are effectively on lockdown, and European ambassadors at the EU are pleading for de-escalation in the wake of IRGC Commander Qasem Soleimani's killing.
The Secretary General has consistently advocated for de-escalation in the Gulf. He is deeply concerned with the recent escalation. This is a moment in which leaders must exercise maximum restraint. The world cannot afford another war in the Gulf.
Response from Iran is practically assumed either way, though, leading to heavy fortification across the world. In the U.S., park police are stepping up patrols at major landmarks in metropolitan areas. German security services are similarly reporting revised guidance on how to appropriately respond to threats against American and Jewish facilities. And two major Arab airlines have canceled all flights with Iraq. Not everyone is mourning and preparing for the worst, though. Some, many even in the Arab world and Iran, are celebrating the death of Soleimani as a service in the war against Iran's expansion.
طبعا نحن يعني نهنئ كل الشعب السوري والشعب العراقي الشعب السني طبعا بمقتل قاسم سليماني ذلك المجرم الذي تمادى في قتل أطفال سوريا وأطفال العراق وسعى في تشريد أهل السنة والجماعة في سوريا والعراق، وهذه فرحة وجمعة مباركة لكل الشعبين السوري والعراقي.
And now joining us to discuss how Israel and the United States will be impacted by the targeted killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani is Middle East expert and chairman of the Professors for a Strong Israel, Dr. Marc Chagall, and the founder and president of the Jerusalem-Washington Center, Gideon Israel. Thank you both so much for being with us now. Let's start with you, Mr. Chagall. Who is General Soleimani?
Well, this man is the arch-terrorist. I would describe him as some of the combination of bin Laden and Baghdadi together, no less. This is the man. He was actually the long arm of the state of Iran in order to devastate everyone who opposes Iran. In Yemen, in Syria, in Iraq, in Lebanon, everywhere. And this was the man, the executioner of the Iranian regime.
So the question then is, why now? The U.S. had intelligence, Israel had intelligence about his whereabouts.
This is the question which I always asked. How come this man is already working for 22 years, devastating the Middle East, and really, why now? Why not 22 years ago, 21 years ago, 20 or 19 years ago?
Do you have maybe a response to that, why this attack took place now and not in the past?
Well, I think it's important to understand what the Trump strategy in terms of the Middle East and the broader world is in terms of military conflict. Trump is not looking to get America into another war. And he will only respond when American lives are in danger or a very specific American interest is in danger. And therefore, what some would say, there was an attack and therefore there should have been an American response. Trump will only attack when he feels that is absolutely necessary. And this attack on the embassy was an attack on America, was an attack on American lives. And when Trump attacks, he's not just going to do a tit for tat, he's going to go for the head.
Well, now we're seeing, over 3,000 troops being sent to the Middle East. And I guess the question is, what is going to be the consequence of choosing to take out Soleimani? What are the ramifications going to be on Israel as well?
Well,
go ahead.
No doubt, Iranians are looking for a revenge.
Right.
Because for them, it's a must. Yet, they have the time. It doesn't have to be today, it doesn't have to be tomorrow. They have all the time in the world. However, actually the situation depends on Trump. As we remember, Bashar Assad bombed a place named Khan Sheikhun in April of 2017, 3 months after Trump came to the White House. Trump sent 59 Tomahawk missiles on an airport named Shu'airat and actually destroyed like 10% or 15% of the Syrian Air Force. And everybody says, well, new president, new policy, but it didn't happen. Because after this strike, Trump looked how the Russians are devastating Syria, how the Kurds are being pushed back, how everything, and he didn't really act on the Syrian arena in a significant way. The question is what will be today. If this will be a one strike, just like what was there in April 17, or he will continue the military pressure on Iran or not. I have no idea.
Well, Gideon, I want to ask you now, a lot of critics have come out and made this into a partisan issue. They're saying that this is Trump's Benghazi in reference to the attack in Libya during Obama's presidency. What are the differences between the responses, between the situations, and do you agree with Trump's handling overall of the situation?
Well, I think this is certainly much different because in Benghazi there were plenty of requests for reinforcements in terms of troops, and even when the attacks happened, there were requests for troops to come, and nothing happened. And I think Trump said, instead of even waiting till the embassy might really be in danger, I'm going to send in an overwhelming amount of troops, and I am going to prevent an escalation from happening. So there's certainly a difference between the way Obama and Trump handled it. Now, in terms of the way Trump handled it, I think this goes along with his outlook in terms of, if I'm gonna act with overwhelming force, and I think that's what he did here.
I want to go back to the issue of the ramifications, though, for Israel more specifically, because we saw the Mount Hermon ski resort was closed over the weekend. Obviously, Israeli communities in the north were put on high alert. How is this going to play out? Aviv Kochavi said last week that Israelis should be concerned.
Well, it all depends on what will Hezbollah do. As the long tentacle of the Iranian octopus in Lebanon, what will do the Iranians in Syria? Don't forget that there are some Iranians in Syria as well, and they might have some unpleasant weapons which Israel have not yet taken care of. So the arena is a bit dangerous. We have to go to sleep with one eye open.
Are we going to?
I think there's also something that Israel can learn from the strike on Soleimani, and that is something that this American administration, unlike other American administrations, is not only interested in Israel defending itself, but rather it's interested in Israel defeating its enemies decisively. And that's what Secretary Pompeo said in his famous Cairo speech. So I think Israel can learn that just like this administration is willing to go to the head of the octopus, as some have said, Israel should look at its enemies and ones that it has confrontations with, like Hamas, and if so Hezbollah, that this is the time not to have another a war of attrition, but rather to decisively defeat the enemy once and for all.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for joining us with this update.
Thank you.
All right. Now, record amounts of rainfall this weekend have wreaked absolute havoc across Israel. And ILTV's Nittany Manson reports live from Tel Aviv.
That's right, guys. This unprecedented weather has really taken a toll, especially in Tel Aviv, where 2 people have been killed so far. People are saying there just isn't the infrastructure in place in the city, and it's even worse because the first responders are not able to get there in time because of street flooding. I mean, I can tell you I live in Florentine, a southern neighborhood on the border of Yaffo, and streets are completely flooded, roofs are caving in, and unfortunately, one couple did suffer severe tragedy. When the power went out in their building in South Tel Aviv while they were in the elevator on the way up from the basement, a young Israeli couple thought they would just have to wait it out. But when rainwater started flooding in, they began to panic.
הדיירים אמרו לי שדפקו על הדלתות של המעלית, הצילו, הצילו, הצילו. ניסיתי להציל אותם, ופה דיירים ניסו, וכל השכנים מסביב גם ניסו להציל. התקשרתי למשטרה, התקשרנו לכבי אש, אחרי שעה וחצי הם באו.
The couple in their 30s were ultimately extracted from the elevator by firefighters, but later died. Heavy rainfall across Tel Aviv and Yaffo have flooded the streets, with the water reaching the roofs of cars and displacing dozens.
הצלתי את הילדים, שלא נכנסנו למים, אין לי טיטול, אין בקבוק של הילדה. ככה לקחתי אותם עם הפיג'מה, יצאתי בלי חזייה, בלי תחתונים.
An estimated 3 inches of rain fell in Tel Aviv over the course of a 2-hour period on Saturday, and one 55-year-old woman was discovered stuck in a pool of water in the city, but she was luckily treated for hypothermia by paramedics just in time. Around the country, many drivers needed to be rescued from cars in flooded streets. In northern Israel, a man in his 70s was killed after he was electrocuted by a heater in his home. There are some benefits to the rain, however. The Sea of Galilee, Israel's major freshwater lake, has risen by 200 millimeters, or 8 inches.
It's heartbreaking news. People stay dry, stay safe.
Right. I mean, these videos are just crazy. Every time I watch them, I can't believe that this is what happened. But moving on.
Moving on. New polls now indicate that Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud party remains strong following the leader's request for parliamentary immunity from graft charges.
But these same polls are also predicting that the third national election that is set to take place in March will still fail to break Israel's political gridlock. On Wednesday, the Israeli Prime Minister asked the Knesset to grant him immunity, declaring his intention to stay in office for years to come. Benny Gantz, the leader of his rival party, Blue and White, says the immunity request is asking voters to choose between the state of Israel and the kingdom of Netanyahu. But the Prime Minister says the accusations against him are politically motivated. According to the polls by Israel's Channel 12 and 13, Blue and White would garner about 35 to 36 seats if elections were held today, and Likud would pick up about 33 or 34, meaning the March 2nd vote would still ultimately produce a deadlock.
In other news, thousands of Jews and their allies of the Jewish community have today scheduled marches in solidarity against anti-Semitic intolerance.
In Jerusalem, for 100s organized by the Jewish Agency are gathering to send a message of strength, pride, and unity. And in New York City, thousands will also rally under the banner of no hate and no fear.
Demonstrators are demanding a change to the growing normalization of anti-Semitic crimes and violence, especially after the latest round of assaults over the holidays, including the machete attack against a rabbi's home in Monsey, New York, that injured 5. And on Thursday, the family of Joseph Newman, a man gravely injured in that Monsey attack, made an impassioned plea to stop the hate.
Guys, I'm begging you, if you are watching this, please stand up and stop this hatred. It cannot keep going on. We want our kids to go to school and feel safe. We want to go to our synagogues and feel safe. We want to go to groceries and malls and feel safe. I'm sure you can all agree with me on that part.
Well, the expected turnout at these marches shows that there is support for peace despite the seemingly uphill battle, and city officials are similarly already working to counter the threats. All right, now sometimes covering politics feels like we're covering glorified celebrity tabloids.
It actually really does, and to be honest, the line between politics and entertainment is often very thin.
Well, get this. Former right-wing Knesset member Oren Chazan is now making his debut on reality television on none other than the hit show Big Brother. Now, this is a guy who also took a selfie with Trump a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And for those of you who haven't heard of this show, Big Brother, it essentially locks a group of crazy people in a house for several months and films them 24/7 as they attempt to avoid getting kicked out. And whoever lasts until the end gets a big cash prize.
But now this show is actually based on the George Orwell novel, where a single political party surveys the lives of every citizen at all times and attempts to control every aspect of their life, including their thoughts. And in this case, the political party is the Big Brother.
Well, this show is one of the most popular in Israel. It's been around since 2008, and Oren Chazan says he's joining the show to get some, quote, airtime and to promote Zionism. But here is the catch. One of his housemates is going to be, or is currently, the spokesperson for Breaking the Silence, an organization that essentially provides a platform for Israeli soldiers and veterans to anonymously recount their tough experiences serving in the IDF.
The NGO has come under fire for being anti-Israel and painting a distorted picture of the IDF, though. And now their activist, Nir Avishai Cohen, will have a platform of his own on the Big Brother program.
So having right-wing Chazan and Breaking the Silence spokesperson Cohen is apparently the Big Brother's attempt to bring even more drama into the house by bringing various political debates onto the show. I guess we'll have to see how this plays out, so get your popcorn ready. I actually think this might be the first time I watched this show.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing could go wrong.
But moving on, art enthusiasts should listen up to this next story because history is in the making now that a lost painting by Marc Chagall is finally up for auction in Israel.
Yes, this painting was originally stolen from the Gordon auction house back in 1996, just days before it was set to be sold. But now, over 20 years later, Marc Chagall's oil painting, Jacob's Ladder, is back up for sale. It's been found, and it's going to be sold in a group of rare Israeli and international works.
The collection is opening for auction in January 25th by the Tirosh Auction House in Herzliya Pituach. And it's comprised of many pieces spanning the 20th century by artists including Reuven Rubin, Nachum Gutman, Yossi Bergner, and more. Bidders are invited to participate in person, by phone, or even live online, and they can see the full catalog at the Tirosh Auction House website.
I love some of these pieces, and a lot of them aren't that expensive, you know?
No, they really range in prices. It's nice, but you know, the Chagall Jacob's Ladder is actually estimated to be around $180,000 before the auction even starts. So it's a little bit out of my price range, but this whole story is actually really special for me because I grew up with Jacob's Ladder in my house.
Oh,
my grandfather
really?
hand-painted a copy of it, and it's still on the wall at my mother's house. So it's just maybe in the future when it goes back up for sale, if ever.
And I think that it was actually taken by a family that said had a Jewish family that said that this painting had been their family for decades or hundreds of years.
Well, it's
but it ended up being,
painting.
taken back by the auction house, so now it's up for sale. All right, well, let's switch gears a little. An awesome wedding proposal is now going viral in Israel, and joining us to tell us all about it is a couple themselves. But first, let us see what everyone is talking about.
Hi, Dan. So number 3 Tango Sierra. And number 3 Tango Sierra. Initiate the round ring checklist. Did you do your round ring checklist?
Negative. We're going to do it and come back to you.
Hi. Throttle.
Okay.
Full open.
Okay.
Carburetor heater. Carburetor heat. Cold.
Okay.
Does the pilot love the passenger forever? Check. Will the passenger take the pilot to be your husband and love him forever?
Will you?
Yes.
Okay.
What are you doing? Oh my God, Bob!
No.
Okay, focus on flying. Okay, land the plane.
Please say hello now to Rachel Koretsky and her fiancé Eldad Reich. Thank you guys so much for being with us today.
I have a question for you. Congratulations, but weren't you scared you were going to crash this plane? I mean, it's a
little distracted piloting.
I was scared, for sure.
Well, it was a really big risk, but I didn't really think about it when it happened. I was just thinking about multitasking, flying the plane, and proposing at the same time.
No big deal. How did you come up with this idea?
Well, I saw a similar idea on YouTube before, but I did want to add the getting the air traffic control involved, and that was the little twist that I added to this video, different than the other video that I saw on YouTube. And gladly, the air traffic control was very cooperative. He was very happy to help, and it was very fun that it worked.
Well, okay, and so you're American, right? And you're Israeli.
Yes.
Yes. Where's the celebration going to be? I mean, that's probably what everyone's wondering right now, right?
So we're doing both countries. So we're going to do an engagement and Hannah celebration in Israel, and then a wedding in United States.
All right. Well, congratulations, guys.
Yes, and enjoy the henna. That's like it's oftentimes more fun than the wedding.
Yeah. Well, now Aaron, I just want to know how you proposed to your wife, because I don't.
It wasn't on an airplane.
It wasn't on an airplane?
It wasn't on an airplane. No, you got me beat. I have
a
to
little
say.
safer. A little safer.
Mine was a little safer.
A little safer. Well, we'll save that story for tomorrow's show, guys. So tune in. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you guys so much, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving on now.
Moving on. Time magazine has published their 100 best inventions list of 2019, and 9 Israeli technologies have made the cut. Here with the scoop is ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh.
Hi guys, that's right. Almost 10% of the list is Israeli, and the innovations are highlighted for making the world better, smarter, and even a little bit more fun. So let me give you a quick rundown. Jumping straight into number 1 is Orcam's My Eye 2. They are talking glasses that tell blind people what they are looking at. Now, the artificial intelligence-powered device attaches to the glasses frame and can identify currency, faces, and even read text out loud. Next up, we have Nerivio, a medical device for the treatment of migraines. The device itself is worn on the upper arm and uses smartphone-controlled electronic pulses to wirelessly stimulate the body's neural pathway to help calm migraines. Definitely a game changer. Third on the list is the Tyto Home Medical Exam Kit, my favorite. This little kit and telehealth platform is designed so you don't have to drag your kids to the doctor so often. This medical kit examines body temperature, heart, lungs, skin, ears, and throat, and sends the results straight to a healthcare provider. Definitely something that I need. Next is WaterGen, a machine that pulls moisture straight from the air to create drinkable water through a filtration process. Using either electricity or solar power, WaterGen can produce up to 7 gallons of water a day. And number 5, the electric 9-seater aircraft called Alice. It seeks to cut greenhouse gas emission used by planes. Now, the craft will ultimately pave the way for larger commercial airplanes and is actually made with lightweight materials. Alice is planning on beginning flight testing this year. Now, the other 3 inventions that made the Times 100 list are Temi, the personal robot, Econcrete, LEQ, and Lemonade. But to read all about them, you have to check out the list.
All right, well, moving on, let's take a look at the weather forecast. The rain is continuing to pour down across the country and here in Tel Aviv with a high of 16 degrees Celsius or 61 Fahrenheit. Tomorrow should finally see a day of sunshine with a high of 18 degrees Celsius or 65 Fahrenheit. Now, we can't let you leave the show without giving you a reason to laugh, so let's take a look at today's viral video on tubing. Yep, that is how you take advantage of rainy weather,
This is
my
definitely
friends.
one way to avoid the storm.
Just
Or to
surfing
enjoy
your,
it.
or actually just to
And
get
this is-
around Tel Aviv.
And for those of you who don't really know, this is Salome. This is a main road in South Tel Aviv that heads from like Tel Aviv proper down to Yafo. It is crazy to see that street that I travel every day pretty much to be sunk in.
It's absolutely insane, but obviously people had to think of creative ways to get around the city because the streets are blocked. You can't drive your car.
Too, so maybe they were.
Yeah, maybe they were heading to the beach. I think also Tel Aviv has the most surfers per capita in the world. Everybody, fun fact.
Didn't know that.
So it's not surprising.
At any rate,
that's
that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.47 shekels to the American dollar. And for more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. I'm Aaron Porras.
And I'm Natasha Kirchek. Thanks for watching.